Exposed. The heartwarming truth about GM V8s 7 incredible transformations you never knew. Jack had always dreamed of more than just fixing cars in the gritty heart of Greeley. But sometimes, dreams felt as rusty and worn as the vehicles he patched up. Inheriting his father's garage felt like a weight. The sign over the shop still read, Johnson's Garage, but it was only a matter of time before the bulldozer from the corporate guy moved in. The voices around him whispered doom and despair, but Jack refused to bow under the weight of it all. He spent his days under cars, hands covered in grease, tapping into his spirit as much as the engines he restored. One sweltering afternoon, Jack pulled a dusty tarp off what he thought was an old piece of junk. To his surprise, it was a GM V8 engine, its chrome reflecting the flickering fluorescent lights above. His heart raced as he pictured what this engine had been through, the roar it must have made, the memories it must carry. He wiped the sweat off his brow and got to work. As the engine slowly came back to life, so did the stories. He found a photo wedged in the oil pan, creased, but intact, a young soldier next to his first car, the V8 engine roaring with pride. He smiled softly, imagining the late-night drives under starry skies, a veteran tasting freedom 1 mile at a time. Then there was a letter, scrawled in fading ink from a single mother who had saved every penny to get her kids to the races. Jack could almost hear her laughter, the joy of hard work paying off manifesting in the tiny vroom of an engine. And the local teens, his kids who gathered every weekend to race and bond over adrenaline, creating memories as powerful as the vehicles themselves. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But there was an undercurrent of tension. Jack could feel it, thick like the grease on his hands. Families were struggling, businesses like his were gasping for breath, and the corporate behemoth just outside town planned to bulldoze the entire block. He rallied his neighbors, speaking of resilience, of dreams still alive. They stood together, but beneath the surface, doubt lurked. Some snickered, did hard work even matter anymore? Jack listened to friendships fray, hearts torn apart by a world that seemed to favor money over honest labor. And then came that fateful gathering, meant to bind the community closer. Jack poured his heart into a speech, watching hope flicker in some eyes. But then a thoughtless remark soured the air. Arguments erupted, dividing the townsfolk, each word a dagger. Jack felt their pain, the sharpness of resentment that cut closer than any tool in his shop. Just when he thought everything was on the line, a flicker of rebellion ignited among those teens he once inspired. They organized a race, a show of defiance. As the engine pulsed with potential, Jack stood at the edge of the chaos, facing the crowd and the corporate representatives, feeling the world shift around him. Day's dusk painted the sky in fiery hues. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, ready to decide the fate of his town, his family. Would they stand and fight, or let the giant wash them away? The future lay heavy on his shoulders, and Jack knew this was just the beginning of something that could change everything. Jack opened his eyes, the adrenaline coursing through him like gasoline igniting a spark. The voices of doubt faded, replaced by the familiar roar of engines revving. It was more than just machinery. It was hope and rebellion, fueled by everything they stood to lose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that danced like spirits around them, he realized that they were all connected by the heartbeat of these cars. As he approached the makeshift starting line, he could see determination etched on the faces of the teens. They were nervous, but their energy crackled in the air. His heart swelled with pride. These kids weren't just racing for the thrill. They were racing for their town, their families, their history. They understood what was at stake. "All right, listen up," Jack shouted, gathering their attention. The crowd hushed, eyes fixated on him. "Tonight, it's not just about speed. It's about showing the world that we won't back down. This is our town, and we're here to reclaim it." Cheers erupted, echoing off the surrounding buildings. It was a simple statement, yet it meant everything. He could see the doubt shake off their shoulders. replaced by the fuel of courage. They were more than a group of young racers. They were a movement. Friends rallied around each other, adjusting oil caps and high-fiving. Laughter cutting through the tension, he stepped back, allowing his emotions to wash over him. It was as if the engine, once covered in dust, breathed new life not just into itself, but into everyone gathered that night. Jack's heart raced alongside those shiny V8s, each rev a reminder of dreams just waiting to be ignited. Then, without warning, a distant sound interrupted the atmosphere, the telltale rumble of corporate cars lining the street. Jack's stomach tightened. The corporate giant hadn't wasted any time. They were here, peering into their world with disdain, the very catastrophe they fought against. A man in a sharp suit stepped out, followed by two others, all with expressions like storm clouds. The people in the crowd tensed. Was this the moment the giant would roar back? Jack felt it like the engines they were revving. The moment was at a boiling point. "Listen," the suited man began, his voice slick with condescension. "This is not the way to face changes that are coming. We can work together, work together." A voice shouted from the crowd, a familiar, strong voice. It was Mary, the local florist, known for her fierce heart. "You want to bulldoze our history and call it progress?" Jack's pulse quickened. He felt a rush of gratitude seeing Mary step forward, her chin held high, embodying the spirit he wished to ignite. The crowd murmured, emboldened by her bravery, began to echo her sentiment. "Yeah, what about our stories?" Another voice joined in. "What about our dreams?" Jack inhaled deeply, feeling the swell of community behind him. The corporate man faltered, the cracks of his confidence showing like a broken windshield in that moment. Jack understood the fight had transformed. It wasn't simply about engines or speed anymore. It was a race for the future, for the soul of Greeley. He felt an unbreakable bond surge among them, something that could never be taken away, a vision worth racing for. As the countdown began, he stood at the edge, heart racing like the engines ready to roar to life. What would happen next? Would the roar of their courage drown out the voice of the corporation threatening their fate? He glanced at the faces around him, ready for the impossible. Lights flickered, engines revved. Now was the time to prove that together they could shift the gears of their destiny. And as the starting lights flashed green, an unexpected twist unfolded. A flash from the past came speeding into view. Who was it that dared to change the course of this race? The dust from the corporate cars mixed with the familiar scent of gasoline, creating an electric atmosphere. Everyone's eyes shifted to the emerging vehicle. Jack squinted against the fading light, struggling to make out the figure behind the wheel. Time slowed as the sleek silhouette revealed itself, a blast from a shared past that sent a shiver through the crowd. It was Danny, Jack's childhood friend, and once a champion racer, long gone from town after a bitter fallout. The battered Mustang he loved and lost in a reckless competition now spun into view, its engine roaring like it never left. But it wasn't just the car that had everyone gaping. It was Danny, with that same reckless grin and wild hair, as if he'd stepped right out of their teenage adventures. "Is that really him?" Someone whispered in disbelief. Murmurs spread like wildfire through the crowd. Jack felt a mix of disbelief and joy course through him. As Danny parked, he jumped out, tossing his hair back and throwing his arms wide. "What's up, Greeley?" he shouted, the sound swallowed briefly by the rising tension. "Heard there's a little race going on tonight." Confusion rippled through the gathering. Just a moment ago, they were facing the weight of corporate giants breathing down their necks, and now here was Danny. The prodigal son returned, as if he was bringing the spark back that everyone thought was fading. "Danny," Jack called out, pushing through the crowd, his heart hammering. There was excitement, but just beneath the surface lay the cracks of broken promises. "You didn't say you were coming back." "I didn't think it was time," Danny replied, his grin dimming slightly. "But hearing you all tonight, it lit a fire, I missed it." He gestured to the eager faces surrounding them. "I missed this." A wave of cheers erupted, and for a second, it felt like old times. But as the cheers died down, a shadow swept back across Jack's heart. "But why come back now, Danny? What changed?" Danny paused, his eyes flickering to the suited men lingering near their corporate cars, a frown creasing his brow. "Things out there, they've never been easy. I saw what they're doing here. All that talk about progress, it's just slick words. I needed to be part of something real again." There was a weight to his words, an unspoken truth lacing the air. The moment hung like the stillness before a storm, the crowd sensing the shift. Jack considered the years that had slipped by, all the dreams they had shared, but also the decisions that had carved their paths apart. It's not just racing, you know. We're fighting for our lives here. Our town, Jack confessed, his voice thick with emotion. I know, Danny replied, clutching Jack's shoulder tightly. And I'm with you all the way. Let us show them how we do things in Greeley. As the crowd roared once more, their spirits lifted, Jack felt a surge of hope. The adrenaline was back, racing through his veins, and he was ready for what lay ahead. Together, with Danny back at his side, it felt as though the tide could turn, but a glance toward the corporate cars told a different story. The suits whispered to each other, one pointing toward the makeshift starting line with an intensity that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. What did they plan next? And would Greeley's defiance be enough to confront the looming threat? The cars were revving, but so were the stakes. The next round was about to unfold, and with it, the real fight for their future. Jack clenched his fists, determination flooding him. It was time to take back what was theirs one race at a time. But unknown to everyone, deep inside the corporate camp, plans were in motion that none of them could anticipate. What was waiting in the shadows? The air crackled with electric excitement as Danny exchanged smiles with the crowd, laughter breaking the tension momentarily. Jack could feel the energy pulsing around him. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, a mix of nostalgia and adrenaline that sent his heart racing. Are you serious about this race tonight? Jack asked, half in disbelief. The stakes felt monumental. What if they try to shut us down? They won T. Danny exclaimed, confidence radiating off him. He leaned forward, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. These guys think they can come in and take what's ours without a fight. But they don't know Greeley. They don't know us. We gestured to the crowd. We're more than just a town. We're a family. And families fight. That last word hung in the air, hanging just above the roar of engines and chatter. Jack's heart swelled. They had always been fighters, even in their youth when they raced for pride and glory. But it's not just about the racing, Danny. This is about our homes, our future. Exactly, Danny said, his fingers tapping the hood of the Mustang. And racing is how we show them we won't back down. We face them head on, like we used to. Let us remind everyone of what Greeley stands for. As Danny's words sank in, Jack nodded, feeling a spark of rebellion igniting in him. If there was ever a time to stand up and show their strength, it was now. He looked around at the crowd, their faces illuminated by excitement, anticipation bubbling in each voice. They were all in this together, but that thought was quickly overshadowed as he caught sight of the corporate men again. They stood in their crisp suits, whispering furiously, eyes darting to Danny and the crowd. Something about their demeanor felt off. It became clearer that their interests might be more insidious than just wanting to win the race. Hey, we need to keep an eye on those guys, Jack whispered to Danny, tension creeping back into his voice. Danny glanced over his shoulder, the confident grin faltering for a heartbeat before returning. Let them watch. We'll show whoever's behind those suits that Greeley isn't going down without a fight. As the gathered crowd began to shuffle towards the makeshift starting line, Jack's mind raced. They would need a plan, a way to rally not just their friends, but anyone who cared about Greeley. Everyone, Jack called out, pulling the attention back to himself. We need to have each other's backs tonight. This isn't just about racing. It's about sending a message. Let us race, not just for speed, but for Greeley. A loud cheer erupted, the crowd's spirit soaring higher. Jack's heart swelled again. Perhaps this was the turning point they desperately needed. But even as confidence rippled through the air, Jack couldn't shake the unease that festered deep within him. He had a gnawing feeling that the suits weren't just here to spectate, they were planning something bigger, something they hadn't fathomed yet. As the engines roared back to life, a mix of cheers and chaos surrounded Jack and Danny, and in the frenzy, a direct challenge echoed in the air. Let us race, and let us win. But as the first car revved its engine and everyone gathered at the starting line, he still felt that underlying pressure, pushing at the edges of their unity. Could Greeley really unite against the threats against them? What other secrets loomed behind corporate lies, waiting to surface in the heat of the moment? As the countdown began and the crowd held its breath, Jack saw something glint in the shadows, a figure lurking behind the corporate cars. Who were they? Did they hold the key to Greely's fate? The question hung between anticipation and fear, ready to explode. Jack's heart pounded as the countdown neared its end. The roar of engines filled the air, drowning out everything else. The crowd, a mass of hopeful faces and racing hearts, stood just beyond the shimmering lights of the makeshift track. He could feel their collective energy, of force that made him want to leap forward and race alongside them. 3-2. His instincts kicked in, sharpening his focus. The figure he'd spotted leaned closer, still hidden in the shadows, and a shiver ran down his spine. What was their connection to the corporate suits? Why were they lurking there, moments before the race that could change everything? All these questions drowned out the cheers around him. 1. The sound of tires screeching across asphalt filled the night as the race began with an intensity that seemed to shake the ground beneath Jack's feet. He watched Danny take off, the Mustang launching like a bullet, leaving the crowd in awe, but Jack's attention flicked back to the shadows. There was something in the figure's stance, confident yet wary. Was it simply a spectator, or perhaps someone more involved with the corporate players? He had to know. He took a step forward, but the pull of the race kept him there. The exhilaration of watching Danny soar, the roar of engines, and the cheers of their friends were intoxicating. Every twist and turn on the track ignited a spark in him, yet his gut twisted with concern for Greely's future. Would tonight turn into a triumph, or would it all end in defeat? The stakes had never been higher, intertwining their passion for racing with the fate of their town. Just then, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that struck Jack like a blow to the chest. Sam? He breathed, disbelief washing over him. Sam had been one of them, a close friend who stubbornly left town for what he called bigger opportunities. Now he stood there, eyes locked onto the chaos unfolding in front of him. "What are you doing here?" Jack shouted, trying to push his way through the throng of bodies. But Sam didn't answer. Instead, he looked past Jack, eyes narrowed, jaw tight. The corporate men were now focused on Sam, and a murmur rippled through the crowd. Jack's stomach dropped. What was happening? Danny flew past them, catching Jack's eye with a brief nod, the Mustang exhilarated and powerful. But the excitement shifted. Jack felt a new kind of tension in the air, one that could turn this unity into division in an instant. Finally breaking free from onlookers, Jack reached Sam just as the racers tightened the loop on the first lap. "You shouldn't be here. Not with them watching." He glanced back, conscious of the corporate men. Sam's eyes flickered over to them, his expression a mix of defiance and fear. "They need to know," Sam said quietly, urgency in his voice, "that we've made a connection, something bigger than they expect. If we win this race, it won't just be about pride. It'll send a message that Greeley isn't backed into a corner. But they plan to sabotage it, Jack." "I heard them." Surrendering to disbelief, Jack stared at Sam, trying to digest his words. "Sabotage? You mean?" "Yes. I've got proof." Sam's eyes were fierce, almost pleading. "But this isn't just about you or me. The whole town is at risk. We need to warn Danny." Fear mingled with adrenaline as Jack turned to move but hesitated. Would shouting sabotage draw attention? Would it distract from the race? "Stay close, and don't let them see you. If I can get to Danny before it's too late." The engines roared, and a sharp turn took the front runners out of sight. But Jack couldn't shake the feeling that danger was far from over. Was Greeley really ready to fight? Or would tonight end in chaos, with their hopes dashed? As Jack scanned the night, determined to protect their home, he couldn't help but wonder if they could truly unite in time. What about Sam's connection with the corporate men? Could he be trusted? And then came the next sound: tires screeching, metal crunching, and a gasp from the crowd. Had the storm of plans begun to unravel, and would Greeley be standing when the dust finally settled? Jack sprinted toward the track's edge, his heart racing. He had to get Danny's attention. The rumble of engines enveloped him, but all he could think about was the urgency in Sam's voice. The crowd was on fire, cheering and shouting, but Jack felt like he was in a bubble, separated from everything else. "Danny!" he screamed, waving his arms. He caught sight of Danny's brightly colored Mustang, slicing through the competition, but the driver was focused, determined to win. Jack pushed forward, weaving through the surging crowd, eyes glued to the race. Each lap brought the roar of engines, and soon whispers of sabotage flooded his thoughts. Sam's words were etched in his mind. Could the corporate men really be scheming against them? The thought sent a jolt of fear through him. Finally, he reached the spot where Danny's pit crew stood, frantically checking equipment. He grabbed a crew member by the arm. "We need to warn Danny." Sam saw them before Jack could finish. A loud crash echoed over the crowd. Tires squealed, and suddenly, the Mustang was forced into a spin as another car swerved dangerously close. Jack's breath caught in his throat, the chaotic scene playing out in slow motion. "Danny!" Jack shouted again, desperation clinging to his voice. But Danny stayed focused, eyes straight ahead, navigating his way through the tight corners of the track. "Jack!" Sam's voice broke through. He had followed closely, urgency in his steps. "We can't let him race like this. The stakes are too high." Jack's mind raced. The timing, the atmosphere, it all felt electrifying yet heavy with danger. He turned to Sam, determination melding with fear. "We need to get to him. We need him to know. If he crashes, if they sabotage this." But Sam seemed to read his thoughts. "We don't have time to lose." They sprinted along the side of the track, keeping low. The crowd roared as Danny executed a stunning drift, the Mustang practically dancing around the curve. It was a moment to celebrate, but to Jack, it was a reminder of how much was at risk. Just ahead, Danny leaned into the next turn, glancing back momentarily. Did he sense them? Jack shook his head, frustration mounting. The noise was deafening, drowning out everything but the pounding of his heart. "We've got to make it to the back straight," Sam yelled, pulling Jack along as they skirted closer to the pit area. "There's a chance he'll see us there." As they rounded the bend, the tension seemed to thicken the air. Sam's face was set, eyes locked on the track. Jack felt the weight of his friend's urgency. Could they make it? Would they save the race, save one another? Suddenly, something caught his eye. A glimpse of the corporate men, huddled and murmuring amongst themselves, seemed to signal an impending disaster. Jack's stomach dropped. The shadows they cast were longer than he remembered, dark and foreboding against the bright lights. Just then, a loud thud resonated again. This time closer, a car had collided. Jack felt the air shift, a collective gasp from the crowd. Panic surged among them, rippling through the sea of faces. "Too late. They're moving," Sam shouted, pulling Jack back. The fear in his voice cut through the chaos, driving him forward. As they fought their way to the front, a scream erupted behind them. Jack turned, eyes wide, meeting the fierce gaze of the corporate men. They were coming, and they were ready to act. "We have to get to Danny. Now," Jack shouted, feeling the pulse of adrenaline coursing through him. In that moment, he knew they wouldn't just be fighting for the race. They were fighting for everything they believed in, for Greeley, for their future. With a surge of determination, he pressed on, ready to face whatever awaited them. But as they neared the starting line, a voice challenged the chaos, rising above the crowd, a voice that could change everything. "Stop. You don't know what you're doing." And with that, Jack's heart sank. "What now?" Jack's heart pounded in his chest as the words hung in the air like a thunderous warning. He scanned the crowd, searching for the source of the voice that had just cut through the clamor. An oddly calm figure stepped into view, catching the light just enough for Jack to see a familiar face. It was Olivia, the tech guru from their garage. She was a little out of place, her hands on her hips, defiantly standing her ground. "Olivia?" Jack called, confusion blending with their desperate urgency. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to stop this madness before it gets out of hand," Olivia shouted back, her voice firm despite the chaos surrounding them. "Danny can't race under these conditions. There's too much at stake." Jack's instincts screamed for urgency. "We know, but it's not just Danny at risk. They're planning something. Just listen," Olivia interjected. "I hacked into the system. I saw the data on their monitors. The corporate men, they're not just betting against Danny. They've set up a failsafe in case he wins." Her words sent a tremor of fear through Jack. A failsafe? What did that even mean? His thoughts spiraled, trying to comprehend the implications. "We can't let them sabotage him. He'll get hurt." "Exactly," Olivia exclaimed, urgency flashing in her eyes. "That's why we need to warn him now. We can't wait any longer." The Mustang raced past, the engine roaring defiantly. Jack felt the heat of the moment crash into him. But how? He's in the zone. If we get through to him now, he might lose focus. But if we don't, God, We can't think like that. Sam's grip tightened on Jack's arm. We need to choose. Do we risk losing this race, or do we risk Danny's life? Because I don't think we have time to do both. Jack swallowed hard, the weight of reality crashing down upon him. This wasn't just about winning the race anymore. It was about survival. Olivia, can you help us? He asked, focusing on her. Can you get through to the race team? Find a way to warn them? I can try, she said, already turning to head towards the pit area, her determination infectious. But you two need to keep an eye on the track. If they try something before she could finish, the chaos intensified. The corporate men had reached the pit area, their presence unsettling the crew, whispering orders that sent eyes darting nervously. Sam, we need to stand guard, Jack urged, pulling him towards the pit. We can feel it in the air. They're about to do something drastic. As they positioned themselves near the pit stand, Jack's pulse thudded, fear clawing in his gut. Every second seemed to stretch longer. He wished he could reach out, grab Danny's focus, and pull him back from the edge of this impending disaster. With a glance at Sam, who mirrored his concern, Jack made a decision. We need to alert Danny, now or never. But as he turned back towards the track, the engines roared, and in that moment, a bright flash illuminated the pit area like lightning. Jack's stomach dropped as he saw the shadow of a figure moving too quickly, too ominously in the darkness. Look out, he shouted, the sense of horror rising like smoke. But the question lingered, would they be able to save Danny from what awaited him, or had they already run out of time? Would their bond be strong enough to withstand the storm that was about to break? The air crackled with tension, and Jack braced for what happened next as the threat unfolded before him. What exactly were they up against? The truth seemed closer than ever, but would it be enough to save the day? Jack's breath caught as the shadow darted closer. He squinted, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding before him. The roar of engines faded into a haunting silence that settled over the pit, and the air felt electric with danger. Sam, Jack shouted, desperation in his voice. We have to get Danny off that track now. But as he turned again, a figure emerged from the shadows, clad in dark leathers, wild-eyed. The man was one of the corporate goons, and he had a look that could freeze your heart. Jack's instincts kicked in. Whatever this guy was planning, it was not going to end well for Danny. The corporate man lunged forward, brandishing a remote control like it was a weapon. You're too late, he sneered, the smirk on his face fueling Jack's anger. It's already set in motion. Out of pure instinct, Jack stepped in front of Sam, ready to shield him from whatever was coming. We can't let you do this, Jack shouted, his heart racing. What can you do? The man chuckled, eyes gleaming with wretched satisfaction. Go ahead, try to stop me. Danny's about to be taken out of the race one way or another. Panic surged through Jack as he glanced over toward the track. He could barely hear the cheering crowd, their voices merging into a single roar, oblivious to the danger brewing in the pit. He had to act fast. Sam, hold my phone, Jack shouted, thrusting it towards his friend. I'm going to get Danny's attention, but I need you to keep an eye on that guy and the others. As Sam took the phone, Jack's heart pounded in his chest. His fingers trembled as he pressed the screen to pull Danny's contact up. What would he say? How could he explain the gravity of the situation without causing panic? Danny, Jack shouted, trying to project his voice toward the track, hoping the noise wouldn't drown him out. Danny, you need to get off the track now. It's not safe. The cars whizzed by, but Jack focused, desperate to catch a glimpse of his friend. A flash of Danny's signature blue Mustang caught his eye, and relief flooded through him. But then he saw it, the sleek black car, edging closer, almost as if it was on a collision course. The fear clutched at Jack's chest. He wasn't sure how much time they had left, but he needed to pull Danny back. He can't see what we see, he thought, his mind racing. Olivia, where are you? He yelled out, looking for her amidst the chaos. He needed her tech skills to break through the static that seemed to envelop everything. I'm right here, came her voice, breathless but calm. She had returned, her face a mask of determination. I've stalled the corporate monitoring systems. I can't hold them forever. We need to get Danny out now. As she spoke, Jack caught a look from Sam, a mix of fear and urgency. Jack, are you sure we shouldn't just run and tackle him? Sam suggested, glancing warily toward the corporate man, who was now fiddling with the remote. Not yet, Jack replied, glancing at Olivia. We might need to play this smart. If we can just... Suddenly, a deep rumble pierced through the air, unmistakably a countdown. The digital display on the remote gleamed menacingly. Jack's heart plunged into his stomach. 3-2 Danny. Jack roared with everything he had left, fingers shaking as he felt the clock ticking away. But would it be enough? Would they save him in time before a blinding flash erupted across the track, and Jack's heart dropped? The countdown had sparked something, and all they could do was watch helplessly. Would they be able to avert disaster? Or was this the moment their worst fears came to life? Jack squinted against the light, the explosion rolling through the air like thunder. Dust and debris filled his lungs, and for a moment, he felt disoriented, as if the world was vibrating around him. The crowd erupted into chaos, screeches of fear mingling with the screech of tires, and yet, amidst it, Danny's blue Mustang careened forward, oblivious to the peril. No, he shouted, pushing through his fear. All that mattered now was saving Danny. But how could he reach him over the roar of engines and panic-stricken voices? Sam, stay close, Jack barked, determination settling over him like an iron cloak. He took off towards the edge of the pit, his feet pounding on the concrete, his vision locked onto the track. Danny was still driving, unfazed, racing past like a comet destined to collide with darkness. Danny, Jack yelled again, his voice growing hoarse. Each call felt like a prayer flung into the void, swallowed by the chaos around him. With every step forward, he felt the panic rising inside, and yet he couldn't falter. His heart raced to a frantic beat, pushing him relentlessly toward Danny that he maneuvered through rescue teams rushing in, ignoring their calls, his focus unbroken. He reached a space where he could see Danny, the driver's focus intense as he navigated the cars around him. Then through the clouds of dust, he spotted that menacing black car once again. It was pursuing Danny, and every fiber in Jack screamed in clarity it was going to hit him. Time twisted and stretched as Jack's thoughts whirled. What can I do? His eyes darted to Olivia, who was still behind him, fingers flying across her phone screen, trying to counteract the chaos shimmering around the pit. Olivia, can you do anything? Jack shouted desperately, his hands curling into fists. Every second felt like a knife in his gut, carving his hope away slowly. I'm trying. Just stay focused. She called back, her confidence flickering like a light on the verge of going out. In that moment, Jack's mind raced, piecing together every strand of knowledge he had. What if he could distract Danny? What if he could create enough chaos to pull Danny's attention off the track? He spotted a nearby piece of racing equipment, a small portable fogger used for dramatic reveals on the track. If he could aim it at the track, maybe just maybe it would create a visual barrier that might slow Danny down long enough for the danger to pass. Jack, no? You can't, Sam shouted, but there was no time. Jack sprinted toward the fogger, grabbing it, and turning back to face the track. He yanked the lever, sending a thick white cloud billowing out, enveloping the track in a ghostly shroud. Danny! Jack's voice echoed against the chaos, desperation ringing in it. The fog swirled, and he could barely see anything. Which was worse? Losing sight of Danny or losing him entirely? Just as fear threatened to choke him, he caught a glimmer of blue through the mist. Danny's Mustang slowed, confusion and instinct evident on his face. Jack could see him looking around, trying to understand where the danger lurked. Stay steady, brother, Jack muttered under his breath, hope igniting within him. Every beat of his heart urged Danny to turn, to find safety away from the looming threat. But then he noticed the black car had skidded to a halt, its engine roaring defiantly amid the swirling fog. The corporate goon emerged, a twisted smile plastered on his face. He held the remote tightly, eyes gleaming with malevolence. Oh no, Jack whispered, dread washing over him. What was he planning now? Danny, Jack yelled, his stomach dropping. This was it. Everything came down to this final moment. Would they save him? Or would everything they fought for slip away in the fog? The pounding conflict of adrenaline and terror surged through Jack as the world slowed to a crawl. But was there time left for action? Would they make it out of this alive? The fog hovered thickly as Jack's mind raced. He could see the Mustang, almost ghostly in the mist, slowing down and swerving back and forth. The tension was palpable, and Jack's heart hammered in his chest. He refused to accept defeat. Olivia, he called out, trying to project his voice over the growing noise of the crowd, the engine still roaring beneath the haze. "Can you distract that guy?" She nodded, understanding the urgency without needing more explanation. Turning on her heel, she headed towards the pit crew, her fingers dancing over her phone as she aimed to breach the corporate goon's focus. Jack clutched the fogger tighter, wishing for time to freeze. The threat was immediate, and it felt like the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. Jack's eyes darted between Danny's Mustang and the black car looming like a predator. He felt a surge of determination. "I have to warn him. Danny," he shouted again, voice strained as he aimed the fogger toward the track. He had to communicate more than just survival. He had to remind Danny who they were together. The memories flashed through Jack's mind, racing through the streets, laughter echoing in the air, dreams shared during midnight drives. Suddenly, a spark of recognition flickered in Danny's eyes. Jack could see it. He felt that connection as if it stretched across the fog between them. "You know me," Jack yelled. "You know what this town is about." Danny seemed to hesitate, the confusion and focus clashing on his face. Jack held his breath, praying Danny would understand. And then it happened. With one decisive glance, Danny jerked the wheel, skidding his Mustang away from the pursuing black car. The crowd erupted, shouting, cheering in a cacophony of adrenaline. Relief washed over Jack, but danger was still imminent. "Get him to the side now," Jack hollered at Olivia, feeling the pulse of urgency intertwining through his veins. She was already in motion, pulling up her phone and sending signals to the pit crew, directing them toward Danny's shifting path. "Danny, don't let them win," Jack screamed, his heart soaring as the Mustang gracefully swerved out of harm's way, the tires screaming against the asphalt. In that moment, conviction surged through Jack. They would fight. Wouldn't he stop now? Together, they were unbreakable, a unit forged in the crucible of years past, fueled by passion, by brotherhood. Behind him, the corporate goon hesitated, confusion flashing on his face as he lost sight of his target. Olivia had successfully diverted attention, but the danger wasn't over yet. Jack took a bold step forward, hoping to ignite the crowd's spirit with a pulse of hope. "This is it, Greeley. Show them what we are. Show them our heart." The stand erupted, voices rallying as the realization hit them. This wasn't just about a race. It was about their lives, their homes. The engines roared back to life, the ground shaking. Danny was taking the back road to victory, weaving through the chaos with a fierce determination. Jack knew that each moment they spent fighting was dedicated to every memory. They cherished every story, every laugh, every dream wrapped in the fabric of their community. What is next? Jack's heart beat wildly as he glanced back at Sam, who was watching Danny with a look of awe and resolve. "Is he okay?" "Yes. He is going for it," Sam shouted, eyes shining with exhilaration. "It's like he is alive out there." And just then, as they rushed toward the finish line, the enormity of their effort collided with reality. The black car surged forward, but Danny was quicker. He gripped the wheel, listening to the roar of 1,000 dreams. The stories of every person standing beside him that night resonated in his heart. In the final corner, with the finish line etched just ahead, voices poured from the crowd like a wave. "Go, Danny. We are with you." And with one last burst of energy, Danny whipped the Mustang around the curve. The cheers drowned out the chaos, and for a heartbeat, time stood still. Jack felt the air shift, a wave of hope washing over them, as Danny crossed the finish line. Victory was theirs, but more than that, it resonated deeper. It was triumph over fear, a testament to community, and a refusal to back down. The dust settled around them, and as the adrenaline waned, Jack turned to Sam, Olivia, and the crowd. Tears of joy welled in his eyes. "We did it. This is just the beginning," Sam shouted, his voice booming with emotion. "We showed them what Greeley stands for." Around them, families embraced. Laughter mingled with the sound of engines cooling, and hope surged through Jack's heart. They weren't just fighting against the corporate threat. They were fighting for each other, for their future, for every tire that spun on the asphalt. They were transformed, closer than ever as the sun set over Greeley. Jack felt the warmth of pride and determination wrapping around him. It was a moment frozen in time, revealing the truth they had always known. Together, they were unstoppable, Greeley was more than a town, it was a family, and they were ready for whatever came next. Now, please take a moment, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans like you understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.